Hello everyone, my name is Heldana Michael. I'm the founder of NRGI. My partner Amen Assefa is the creative director of biology here in Ethiopia. He was unable to make it today's presentation, so I'll be presenting this piece of work. This piece is titled Beauty of Spirit, and it's a commentary of the daily experiences of women in Ethiopia. Specifically to gender differences, sexual harassment, and sexual assault. Raise your hand if you've ever been attacked. Both. Okay. Raise your hand if you have been verbally abused by a bystander, close relative, a friend, a partner. Almost everything. Raise your hand if this verbal abuse had a sexual undertone or connotation. Alright, so for the next few questions, I want you to raise your hand if you're feeling controversial. Who here has ever been told they deserve to be raped or are going to get raped if they do this or don't do this or that? Who here identifies as a victim of rape? I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Rape, abuse, sexual assault, sexual harassment, blood, sweat, tears, flashbacks, unforgettable and unforgivable acts and crimes. Every year, several movements and organizations and individuals come together to educate and raise awareness in society of these occurrences, commemorate the victims, and lastly have a common voice in stopping sexual, verbal, and physical attacks. Stop sign. After a long pause, she came back from staring at the smoke, dissipating from our bubble to the couch lounge. She looked into my eyes and told me her story. How she was just a kid. How she trusted him, how she got raped. What that did to her. How she never told anyone. How she felt the need to protect her family. How she was ashamed. How she kept it inside. How she hated men. How she hated sex. We were in a bubble, and she told me all. I felt weak. I felt powerless. She was pouring herself for me, and all I could do was it. This is a quick disclaimer. All the accounts or all the experiences that are discussed in this presentation are personal, or things that the writer witnessed firsthand. This presentation and commentary is in no way a means to endorse truth. This part is very sincere. We apologize for any traumas the moment stated in this presentation that we bring up to you. A European background. It was my first day away from home, far from family, far from friends, far from anything and everything that was family. Yet, I enjoyed the unsettling feeling and the fleet of butterflies in my stomach, the unease and the scare. The jitters only meant a new adventure lay ahead. For the adventurer in me, for the kid inside, all was well, all was good. As a kid from a quiet neighborhood, strict, uneventful schools, and a very culturally and spiritually conservative family, my childhood was pretty much separate from the outside world and the evils that reside within it. Everything I knew about the world beyond my immediate contacts was through books I read, movies and TV I watched, and adult conversations I was lucky enough to be part of or eavesdrop in without going to school. So when college finally came around, I was on my own. I was determined to see it all, feel it all, and experience every last bit of it. My first night away from home, I was on a balcony, a European balcony, far away from home. It was late, past 2 a.m. The fall wind was caressing the leaves of the trees in a pendulum pressure. for a couple of minutes at a time. Then it leaves them to go canoodling, just waiting for it to open time and a warm embrace. It was a beautiful night, just to sit around and stare at nothing while thinking of everything. That's when I started. Yeah, that's when I started. A lady, a young, attractive lady, out in the dark. She was walking through the park in front of my apartment. I remember jumping up and I wanted to scream, "What the hell are you doing?" But I didn't. My heart was racing. It was a beautiful young female walking the park alone, well past midnight. Everything I have experienced growing up in Ethiopia was flashing its lights, blasting its sirens. I did not know. What confused me more was she was calm. No one was shaking. No one was after her. No one was catcalling, groping and tossing or trying to rape her. This was a lady, an upright, alone, in the dark, and she knew she was safe, and she was safe. I paused and thought and realized how sad our lives are, how screwed up our thoughts are, how wrong our ways are. I've been programmed to believe the woman is out and about in the dark, all alone. The dangers that might follow are a result of her carelessness. It's her fault, not the guy who sexually assaulted her. Not him. Of course not. It wasn't supposed to be. Not really her. She was alone in the dark. I definitely knew. That is the reason why I freaked out then. That is the reason I feel suffocated to this day when my little sister is out past 7 p.m. Yes, 7 p.m. That's the reason every time I walk past a taxi with my mom, my sister, a relative, or a friend, anyone who's a female, I'm obligated to be alert, to defend them. At any moment, any stranger can call out and say whatever disgusting thing he felt like saying, and he would believe he'd be complimenting. Even if I let that slide, another one might come around and grope the lady I am with, while feeling there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. This is also why I can't enjoy myself when I'm out with a group of lady friends or stuff. Those nights are a complete misery. And mind you, I'm not the one getting groped, catcalled, dragged to the dance floor, getting touched inappropriately, assaulted, and even sedition and rape are looming threats. My lady friends go through all of that while all they want to do is get a couple of drinks and enjoy some quality. If I say my nights are miserable trying to protect them, imagine how it feels being done. However sweet in trying to protect your female family and friends is, the solution can't be it. After all, putting out a fire still leaves you with a burnt house and nowhere to live. I believe that's where the problem is. That's where the problem where Ethiopian women are facing starts. We are always trying to put out fires. It's never about preventing the fire from happening. We only wake up when a large sum of the house already burns. And we scramble to put out the rest and think little we can do. So pretty soon we realize that it's too late. We slept through the fire and ignored all the cries for help, while our women were screaming, "We are burning alive here!" We must recognize all the wrongs we do, admit our mistakes, punish those who deserve it, teach those who can be brought back to the light, educate our kids a better way, and enough with the boys will be boys nonsense. Even though I believe there's a spectrum between rape and catcall, that doesn't excuse the lie. Both are wrong. Both and all that lays between them is wrong. We have to have those uncomfortable conversations. We have to call out our friends and co-workers. It all begins with you. If you're not willing to stand up, who will? If you're not willing to call out bigotry, who are you waiting for? Be aware of the wrongs in your ways. Have a conversation. Have conversations. Educate those who are unknowingly doing wrong. Prosecute those who prey on the weak. Don't stay silent. Don't stay passive. Just because you do not know her personally, that doesn't mean her feelings. Whatever reason you give yourself to stay out of the whole thing is exactly how the world turned a blind eye to that. How did that work? Every time I think of that, it doesn't concern me attitude. I'm reminded of a quote by Martin Luther. The quote reads, "First, they came for the socialists. I didn't speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unions. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for." I was back home for the summer. I spent a lot of time with her. She's in her late teens now. The more time I spend with her, the more I'm exposed to her reality, the more I'm horrified with the absurd norms in her life. I was in the taxi with her, but she was getting off early. She was heading to a friend of hers. The place she got off at was a very public and crowded place. But still my heart ached as I watched her get off the taxi and start walking away. I knew a bunch of dudes with catcalls maybe broke her, or even worse. Mind you, on a crowded street full of people in the middle of the day, that is normal. My sister is young and beautiful, just like that European girl. The only difference is the European girl was walking in the middle of the park, well past midnight, alone, secure in her choice, while my sister was in a crowded street in the middle of the day, yet she was far less, way far less. Teenage boys and Lekka loosely translates to catwalk for the non-umpire speaker. When the Orange movement started a couple of months ago, I wasn't aware of it. I was following the hashtag #MeToo development breaking around the globe, but I wasn't informed about the activities in the media. Thus, when I noticed more and more females in my contact were changing their profile pictures to orange, I was naturally curious, and I asked a friend of mine about it. She explained what was going on, and I was pleased women in my country were making their voices heard and using technology to further their noble agenda. Though that delight and proud feeling was short-lived, as the days went by, my contact list became dude and orange profiles. I was like, the sad truth is, for all my shock, I was very aware of the lives of the ladies in my circle. From my mom to my sisters to friends and colleagues, the suffer and hurt they go through is Yadawa, which is a secret everyone knows. It did, however, make me question why, not where are they going to live. That's very obvious. The other half of the human population is preying on them and making their lives miserable for this pathetic indulgence. That question was an easy one to answer. The one I struggled with was, why is our culture, the Ethiopian culture, favored? And that led me to reminisce on my days as a teenage boy in Ethiopia. Let's back it up to a couple of teenage boys in Bishopsy. I was a kid back then, a teenager with a springy mustache and a voice I had to fake to make sound. I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but 2,000 kids will feel me on this. There was a bunch of things that were norms in the life of an Ethiopian teenager. He played pool, watched football, got into fights, started lifting weights, experimented with lightweight drugs, got angry at our parents, started to stay out a little late, and, something more than that real. I now look back and think it was very cute. Some of our ways were very stupid, but still cute. However, for all the nostalgic smiles I have, there's one that haunts me. Lekka. Now, Lekka is not technically a cat call. In the Ethiopian context, it can range from a whistle to straight up whooping. Sure, we use other phrases like Basiwari Kompota, but Lekka is the mainstream term for the range from creepy to stereotypical. This is where our culture fails and where I believe we have to work on. Before I get into it, let me share an argument that opened my eyes. It has something to do with women's fashion. And I'm not sure where I read it, but it goes in the line. One was arguing the ladies' dress is correctly and can be considered as their responsibility for their. Unfortunately, for this that may follow, I cleaned up the language. The argument was basically we should teach our girls not to dress like that, which I must say is a state of beauty, and one that I want to honor with the counter argument. But the response I read to it was everything. Maybe we should teach our boys not to be racist. That is exactly what our culture and society sought to teach me. And my friends, we are the ones to blame. I take us responsible for our actions. But again, we were kids who didn't know any better and were trying to navigate our way into adulthood. We thought lifestyle is what men do. We believe that is how we develop from boys to men. We're convinced that is how people will stop seeing the boys and start recognizing the men in us. We took like a fact to be a rite of passage to manhood. Oh, how long? To be candid, we never got to the task of smoking or anything like that. We were in the winking and catcalling, which is less awful but still incredibly terrible. Yet we thought we were just being men, because that's what men do after all. That's what we saw the men do not, right? Thus we would walk after school with our ill-fitted uniform, laughing at whatever used to make us laugh and stopping and complimenting a beautiful girl passing by. At least that's what we thought we were doing, just complimenting. If only someone had sat us down and taught us the wrongs of our ways. If you're a lady who's reading this and you have something to do, I guarantee you have a story about love. Without knowing nothing about truth, I can guarantee that with absolute certainty that you have a story. And the fact that I can do that is very different. And is exactly why we need to change our ways. If you're a man reading this, the odds that you have been involved in that multiple times, even if it was just a whisper or a young which is so beautiful. I want you to know that you are in the wrong. Just like I was in the wrong. You have no rights bothering women. I don't know if you have noticed this, but I and your brother's history have been pretty good to us, just on the account of us possessing a certain genitalia. On the other hand, the other half of the human population, women, still struggle to belong in a world which is rightfully theirs, as it is mine and yours. Trust me, our winks and catcalls, however innocent they may seem in your head, they're the last thing you want to deal with in their lives. Dear reader, or in this case, partner, society is not an abstract concept. Society is you and me. When you fail society, society fails. When you fail, society fails. When you prevail, society prevails. Change never rains from the sky. If we want change, we have to make it happen. It's only by pushing culture and society, by being a little uncomfortable today, we may build a better tomorrow. So please do me a favor. Next time your teenage brother, friend, neighbor makes the same mistakes I did, sit him down. Teach him the wrongs of his business. Teach him that is not what a man does or what a man is. Let's redefine masculinity. Let it be care, compassion, love, loyalty, patience, and all those sweet things. Because the boys of today are the men of tomorrow. And we have a responsibility to make sure they grow up to be the gentlemen. Let's brave gentlemen that respect ladies, those who work together with them to build a brighter and more harmonious tomorrow. You deserve to be rich, and the age of hashtag me. What is it? Let's define it, shall we? Rape is defined as the unlawful sexual activity and usually sexual intercourse carried out forcibly or under threat of injury against a person's will or with a person who is beneath a certain age or incapable of valid consent because of mental illness, mental deficiency, intoxication, unconsciousness, or deception. Dear reader or audience, this essay is but limited. I know. I won't be able to touch upon all the injustices women go through, and to think I can do that will be extremely frustrating. I want to discuss much from gender roles to wage gap, to borderline, criminal and criminal traditions, but I'm afraid of trying to touch all of them. I might do them all wrong. Plus, I have to try to keep my thoughts guided, and this project can't. In the previous part, we've discussed and tried to shine a light on various forms of misconduct, sexual abuse, and sexual assault. We've tried to show our thought process and display observation. We've also tried to offer some kinds of solutions. In the final part of this essay, we want to focus on a single subject. Before we start, we'd like to start from a quote. For the ladies who stumble on this essay willfully or accidentally, the writer apologizes for this to cause past traumas and takes you back to painful moments that you have. The writer doesn't mean to cause any harm to anyone, but he's afraid to stay silent. The rest of it the walls anyway. The writer believes resolutions lay ahead of discussions. Thus, the writer hopes you will forgive him for reminding you of your painful moments, so that we can create a better society and others won't have to go through the same. Here's a discerning statistic. From a dozen women around you, including family and friends and co-workers, I can practically guarantee at least 3 of them had an incident that was supposed to get raped, and I am sorry if this has happened to people in your circle, or worse, yourself, actually. An informal survey conducted in a little circle. I was shocked by the results, and I implore you to conduct the survey. Thus, you'll understand the rampant behavior of rape culture and how much we all suppress the reality and let victims suffer in silence. If you don't want to conduct a survey, I understand your unsilence, but I want you to know silence in the face of justice is complicity with the upset. And however uncomfortable you might be in discussing this issue, that is nothing compared to the suffering victims. You ought to open the conversation. Remember, resolutions lay ahead of discussion. Words are powerful weapons, and we ought to use them against injustice and oppression. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who listen, the enunciation. I'm not asking you to pity them or give them our patented tone, but they need to know they are heard. They need to know they matter. They need to know you care. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know that you are here for them. That's not just an ear you are offering, but by opening the door for discussion, will allow them to come forward. You might be able to assist them on various fronts, from emotional support to legal counsel. The survey resulted from a little circle. Half the ladies I talked to were 6 ladies with some as minors, some as younger, and one was a chief. Mine, that is one problem. Chosen randomly, and this was when 50% of the ladies around you have gone through something horrible That is not a coincidence. That is a blatant reality. A reality we are all refusing to acknowledge. We were in a crowded lounge, but lost in a corner. We had a couple of drinks, but we were not. We smoked a lot of hookah, and we were not lost. We were in a bubble where only she and I. Nice music was our background. Our bubble was only interrupted by the occasional sip of a drink, and by the sweet scent of the we were in a bubble of honesty and vulnerability. I saw it in her eyes that she was about to tell me something. I stayed silent and waited. After a long pause, she came back from staring at the smoky ceiling from our bubble to the couch. She looked into my eyes and told me her story. How she was rejected, how she trusted him, how she got raped, what that did to her, how she never told anyone, how she felt the need to protect herself, how she was ashamed, how she kept it inside, how she didn't know how to. We were in a bubble. She explained herself before me, how I could be with her. Hers is not a separate incident. If you had done the little film surveys in the circle, you'll come to realize the constant and consistent threat around it. Just to be clear, when I say realize, I am strictly talking to the gentleman who are engaging or partaking in the presentation. Ladies, I don't need to remind you. Your constant misery is good enough reminder. For the men, though, I would like to offer this thought experiment. I was listening to a podcast by Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, and Bill Burr was a guest. They discussed a wide range of subjects on kink and family youth and women. Burr brought up an interesting thought experiment. I will paraphrase it as the following. This experiment is for men, and especially those of you who are reading or listening or watching this presentation and thinking, he's laying it a little too thick. This is exaggerating. Can't be that bad. Let's see, shall we? Freedom is nice. The ability to go wherever you want, do whatever you wish, enjoy whatever you will. It's nice. It's a nice feeling. Prison robs you of that freedom. It's tough, but let's be honest. As known, that's not what terrifies us when we say freedom. It's not the loss of our freedom. No, it's the almost guaranteed threat of rape and being quote unquote someone's. I know, you're feeling uneasy at this point. I mean, what good wants to think about getting raped? The horror, right? Very well, that is exactly the point. For you and I to get worried about rape, there is a specific condition that has to be met. If you don't want to get raped, don't end up in prison. That's it. That's all you have to do as men. I know there are other unfortunate incidents too, but I'm focusing on the dominant. You and I only get to experience and worry about that constant loom of pain, suffer, and misery rape brings almost exclusively if we're in prison. Meanwhile, the women in your life, all of them have that threat on the back of their head at all times. That's just how they live. An evening walk in the neighborhood, she might get raped. A dark alley, she might get raped. Walk in the park, she might get raped. Empty taxi, she might get raped. A night out with friends, she might get raped. At the school campus, she might get raped. I can go on and on and on, but I hope you see it. Unfortunately for the human animal, we are not good with empathy and understanding the pain of others unless we imagine ourselves in the shoes. There you go. That is a woman's truth. Your worst nightmare of prison rape is their comfort reality. Dear author, at this point I would like to take a minute break from the fourth wall and talk to you guys, specifically to my female. Hello, dear female. I know the phrase "you deserve to be raped" jumps out at you after this. It might have given the wrong message. I deliberately held off explaining my reason for why I chose it, as I'm approaching the last few slides. I only think it is only right to explain it. First of all, the header "you deserve to be raped" was not a cut. I would never disrespect the topic this year, the cheap trick of the internet. If it felt like I was trying to grab attention, that was never my intention. I don't care. And I've never cared about notoriety or the views I get. I believe in what I write, and I mean every single day. Everything I said came up from it truthfully, and I honestly hope and choose to work for the better. I wished for and talked for a more harmonious society. I hope this essay will do its little part, and I hope it will make its way around organically helping those who giving voice to those who have none, educating those who need to be educated, and letting the predators out there know. Time is up. Deserve to be raped is a quote from Ministries by Vice titled Slut Shaming Future Profiles by Vice. I believe the content discussed in that video in the concept of slut shaming coupled with a few suggestions on how we could do better. It will be the right note to conclude this presentation that has been years in the making and months in the making. As I mentioned earlier, it is hard for humans to show empathy and understand the pain of others unless that pain is put into perspective with their respective lives, and they can see themselves in the shoes of the victim. That's why I intend to do this. I believe more specific and illustrative might help in educating those who are generally unaware of the rampancy of rape culture. You deserve to be raped. That is such a hurtful statement from anyone who is offended. And especially if said someone was a victim of rape. Saying they had a part in the crime that was committed against them was borderline psychopathic. You might think, what horrible human would say that? But you'd be surprised how much a society truly believes there are certain things if done that make women think of it. I first experienced such sentiments when I was a very young child. I didn't even realize how messed up it was until very recently. I was 13 years old at the time, attending a debate that was being held in our. It was about the pros and cons of globalization. I'm not going to answer any of the debate part. But there was one interesting point I remember about clothing. It goes, Western clothing are more revealing and provocative than our Ethiopian counterparts. Thus, if women wear Western style clothing and follow said fashion, they are and are completely liable for what might follow. I kid you not. Well, we all agreed. The teachers were nodding their heads, and I think the point got across. That is our reality. We believe the fashion women follow can be consequential in their rape, and we think they should be accountable for attempting the rape. I'm not going to rebuttal this idea. For one, it is stupid with a capital S. For two, the idea in an abstract manner would only give validity which I despise. Thus, let me make a point, and I will be using myself as an example, and all the illustrations I will do to make my point. Women in no way are liable for the crimes committed against them. On their fashion traits, the crime is a deliberate choice that was made by the transgressor, he and only he should be held accountable for his crimes. Victim shaming is almost hurtful. It's almost as hurtful as the pain the victim gets. Why would you want to victim twice? Why? I can give multiple examples of statistical evidence of how rape is a conscious choice by the offender and the victim's fashion choice is never to blame. I mean, just in Ethiopia, women get assaulted and raped in the rural parts of the country all the time. If their fashion choice is to blame, were they provocatively dressed? Did they reveal too much and bait their assailant into raping them? I'm sorry, I distressed. I dove into abstract concepts and discussing ideas. Let's pause that for a second. My dearest now reader, when was the last time you pulled a cloth from your closet and put it back because you thought a little too easy? And I might get raped if I wear it. Does that ever happen? I mean, in your life? Let me tell you my answer. No, never. I love wearing tank tops. I love wearing short shorts, especially in the summer, and never have I ever worried, am I revealing too much? Not a thing. We get to wear whatever we want with the new trendy fashion of skinny jeans, ripped clothes, short shorts, tight shirts, tank tops, and such men are up there with revealing too much. But not for once do we worry about getting raped based on our fashion. In that case, why can't we simply assume the same for females? It is only common sense. Rape is a crime done on the sole will of the criminal. The victim played no part in it. Thinking they did, and having even the slightest inclination to victim shame is disgusting and inhumane. Victim shaming goes a long way just from fashion. It seems like the first few questions that follow the news of rape are: what was she doing? Where was she? Who was she with? I tell you, these are absurd, wrong, and mind-bogglingly stupid. Don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging irresponsibility or reckless behavior, but the double standard we have set up bothers me time and time again. We expect women to be accountable for crimes that are done against them. If that's not stupidity, I don't know. Listen, at this point, I know there are some of you watching out there and going, that's a little arrogant and misguided. I mean, if she's dressed like a slut, changing one kind of books, including drugs and things, isn't she somehow to be doing? First of all, watch your language. For you to call someone a slut, like I said earlier, if it was about fashion and revealing their bodies, men are practically up there in the current fashion trend. But would you ever call a dude a slut? No, you wouldn't. So stop it with your hypocrisy and delusional sense of ethics. Second, no, she's not the one to blame. Again, let me use an illustrative example that then discuss ideas convince your already defensive self how victims are never the ones to blame. I understand her actions might not have put her in the best situation, but we all do dumb stuff, especially when we are young. I've done it. Dressed like a slut, check. Hang out with the wrong crowd, check. Get blackout drunk, check. Get in risky situations, even with strangers, check. Smoke, check. Experiment with drugs, check. And so much more. But not once, as I was engaging in the aforementioned objectively dumb but to point fun activities, that I was concerned I would get raped at any point. Dear viewer, you probably have done them. Maybe not to my extent, but you have done so. Tell me, men, when was the last time that you thought, I'm getting a little tipsy, I should stop and check on myself? Or I might get raped? Has that ever happened to you? Do you have to worry about someone dosing you drink while you're away and that's leading you to rape? Has that ever happened to you? You deserve to be raped. No, no you don't. Nothing you do should ever result in you getting raped, ever. You deserve to be raped. No, no you did not. Nothing you did played a part in your assault. You're a victim of a crime. You're not to blame. The examples I can give and the points I can make are boundless, but I do have to close this presentation. So let me give you one last example of how men and women have it different and how they experience life extremely on different grounds. My sister is a college freshman. My family was trying to decide what college she should attend. One evening, Dad called. The word in his voice was very loud. I asked him what was wrong. I could hear the temp music. He told me the campus was far away and he was afraid for her commute back and forth. And the threat that she may get lost. I paused for a second. He said it was wrong. The thought of their son getting raped did not cross the mind of my parents, even when they were sending me thousands of miles. So for my sister, even studying in her native city, I saw what comes with a concern and a threat she has to deal with. The phone call was a sobering reality on how much I have it in and how much my little sister has it. Dear everyone, the night is darkest just before dawn, and I promise you the dawn. I know things look dark now, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. International movements such as #MeToo and Time's Up, local efforts such as the Orange Movement bring so much hope to my heart, and I hope they do the same for me. The dawn is coming. I promise you, the dawn is coming. Change is only an idea unless we are willing to work on it, unless we put in the effort, and I believe you all want to put in the effort. We will build a better society. We will live in harmony. That we will do. I dream for the day where everybody can talk about sexism, slut shaming, sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, victim shaming, rape, and such will have been a thing of the past. I believe it's not an unachievable dream, but our destiny is society. Be full of love and compassion. Help those in need. Help. Listen to those who need an ear. Assist those tired on their uphill battle. Educate those who are in the wrong. Prosecute the predators. And above all, never stop striving to get what you are owed as women, to achieve what we are meant as society. A bright and harmonious tomorrow is not a fantasy, but our destination.